This is Robert from the MARETweb project. This is the first in a series of videos that will be educational and informative to the users of the MARETweb project. I'm going to try to keep these within 10 or 15 minutes if I can. Some of them might go a little longer, and some of them may contain parts, part 1, part 2, part 3. This legal notice will appear on every one of them. I suggest you stop the video and read it. It basically is a hold harmless agreement that says that this is educational material that contains suggestions, opinions, ideas, and concepts that may or may not be useful to you, and you should use this at your own discretion. The purpose of this video series is to give you expert training regarding psychological issues treatment for specific client problems in the use of the MARETweb project software as a counseling aid. It's intended to be educational for therapists who counsel others. There's going to be detailed discussion about specific psychological issues. I've already had a few people ask me for a few things. And there's going to be specific MARETweb feature demonstrations as well as some philosophical discussions. This first video, I think, is most important for us because the MARETweb project in the psychological community of tools, electronic tools, is unique in that we have 12 assessments now, something that other people don't have. So I thought it would be best to start with an overview of not only the assessments, but as the designer of these assessments, how they should be used most effectively. So we're going to explore that information, and there's going to be recommendations on these pages about the flow of particular assessments, which ones should be given, which ones are optional. So we start with how to administer for new people. We have 3 ways to administer. One is on screen, where the person sits down and takes it on the screen. The next one is they take it on paper, and there's a reentry form for the therapist to put it on, to put the results on. Little boxes. You just put the number in the box and make it real easy. And then there's a remote assessment that's really unique. It allows you to send an email link to the site for the therapist or for the client to actually take this at home remotely on their phone, on their tablet, on their computer, wherever they can get an internet connection, they can take the assessments. There are some assessments that should be given before the first session, right at the beginning of the first session. As far as I'm concerned, they're critical. One is quick test. That's anxiety, depression, potential for self-harm, including suicide. And you're going to want this information right up front. Cognitive behavioral assessment. Again, this is distorted thinking. For those who use CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, this is an invaluable tool. It gives you 13 different areas of cognitive distortions. This is something that therapists need to get in the practice of. Every week you should give quick tests and CBT. You need this information up to date. You cannot let that go without having that information every week. It's like when you go to the doctor, they take your blood pressure and your temperature every time. They don't look and say, oh, we've got your blood pressure from 2 months ago, we're good. It might have changed. There might be something seriously wrong. I've had a doctor take my blood pressure 3 times in one visit, but I've never had a doctor say, oh, we're going to skip that this time. We don't need a temperature, we don't need blood pressure. That's what quick test is. Until you see results under 115 for all three areas, you must give it every time, or as far as I'm concerned, it becomes an ethical issue because you don't know where your client is. And the same thing with CBT. If you're working on cognitive distortions, let's hope there's some kind of progress, and by re-giving it, you will see the movements of that person's cognitive distortions. So the second round of assessments, and I would say that unless there's some reason not to, these should also be mandatory, but you're going to want to spread them out a little bit maybe. Send these out as remote assessments and give the client a couple of weeks to finish them. Anger is an important issue, especially because there may be passive-aggressive issues that you can't immediately see in session. Addictions and dependency, even if it's not an addiction issue, there's codependent analysis contained in here. And home of origins, anytime you're counseling somebody, you got to know what happened in the home. There's no question about that. Third assessment, not to diminish it by making it a third assessment, but the PSA, personality spectrum analysis, is critical. This shows the entire construction of their personality, and you need to know these issues. However, if there is extreme elevation in quick test, that may skew these responses because a person is hyper vigilant, and they may skew their PSA results by choosing higher totals than they would normally choose if the anxiety, depression scores were lower. So if they're above 115, above 120, I would say wait on the PSA. If their scores are not down by 4 weeks, then go ahead and give it. Once they get down to 115, you should get pretty accurate results with PSA. There's a new tool, Schizotypy. It is built into the PSA. Those results were extracted out of the PSA. You do not need to administer it. When you give the PSA, Schizotypy automatically comes in. We're going to talk about Schizotypy and its relevance and a growing importance in the world of counseling, and it has to do with all the schizotype diagnostics in the DSM-5. The psychological community is finding that the schizo issues are a continuum, and a person may fluctuate in and out of reality testing issues, and they may get increasingly close to that edge of breaking with reality. And by assessing these things early, we might be able to break that progression forward down the continuum of reality issues. So the PSA needs to be given every 4 weeks. If you are a premium member, you will just be stunned at the amount of information that you get once you administer PSA more than one time. There is information in there that will guide you and lead you in the right direction, counseling individuals to make positive changes. The rest of the assessments, spiritual gifts, and all the others that I haven't mentioned, at your discretion, give those. As you continue counseling, the PSA results will normalize. Remember that counseling is not simply a removal of crisis points, the anxiety, depression, potential for self-harm. When those things are normalized, now it's time to really start counseling, because now you can work on the personality. When you start to get the distorted thinking under control and the client understands when they distort, now it's time to start working on the personality issues. So, and those of you who are not MARETweb Premium users, I would strongly suggest that there is just a ton load of things that I've included in there that I continue to include. And that's it for this first video. There will be many more.